Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next edition of Meet the Candidates. This one's going to be focused on the general election. We'll be going through a series of different interviews that you're going to be able to see on our YouTube channel, as well as through a link on mdmemphis.org. We're joined today by John Gillespie, a Republican candidate from District 97. And John, thanks for joining us. We're also joined by Dr. George Woodbury, the Memphis Medical Society Legislative Chairman. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Woodbury. John, we're going to get right into the questions. As most of our members know, we ask every candidate the same questions, and that allows us to display some consistency for our members. So we're going to get right to it. So John, back during the summer, Governor Lee issued Executive Order number 15. Among the provisions in that order was the ability for nurse practitioners to practice with autonomy. What's your position on the expansion of scope of practice for non-physician providers, such as nurse practitioners and physician assistants?
All right. First of all, thank you all so much for organizing this and for including me, and I'm excited to be here. Let me first start with, I work at a skilled nursing facility as a grant writer. I'm not a medical professional by any means. I work with a lot of doctors and a lot of nurses and nurse practitioners and CNAs and you name it. I'm kind of there with them every day or 5 days a week. So I have all the respect in the world for all the professions out there that are providing care for us, especially right now during COVID and this crisis. I do think that there are certain places where it could be appropriate to where a nurse practitioner should have expanded authority in crises like we're seeing right now, but it should be limited in nature right now under the current laws that we have. Now, speaking of which, the current laws that we have, I've had this discussion with multiple members and multiple candidates that are running for state office, and I believe there is compromise out there. I think that there is the ability to listen to both sides and see what works and what doesn't work. And just to give a very specific example, I'm not saying that this is something I agree with or disagree with, but take a diabetes shoe for an example, that's prescribed. I think maybe in that very, very, very specific case, some flexibility should be shared a little bit more with the nurse practitioners to give them a little bit more autonomy. But with other issues, especially with opioids or with the diagnosis of certain diseases and ailments, I think that the MD definitely should be involved. And I think people would be more comfortable with that as well. But again, when I get up there in Nashville and you present your bill and they present their bill, I'm going to look at both of them and I'm going to see what we have in common, what you all have in common between the nurses, the NPs, and the MDs. I want to make sure that at the end of the day, I'm a grant writer. I'm not a medical professional. I don't know what's best for you. I don't know what's best for a patient. So I want to work with both sides or all sides of the issues of autonomy there and make sure that everyone has their input and their say. And at the end of the day, we can come together in Nashville and vote on what's appropriate for Tennessee.
Middle ground and compromise is the name of the game sometimes. We understand that. We're going to move on to the next question. So a lot of difficult decisions made throughout the pandemic and still today that force business owners, parents, policymakers, all sorts of people to balance personal physical health with the economic health and that desire to, get back to business, get back to normal, whatever phrase of the day you want to use. Can you just talk about your thought process when you're faced with those types of challenges if you're elected?
Sure. So first of all, as with any business, state government is not very different. The majority of the cost that it bears is on employees. So if we would have to lay off or make those decisions to kind of trim the budget, I would leave vacant positions open for 1 calendar year and see what happens between now and then. But I will also say that there's certain parts of state government, and I believe this to my core, that we are responsible for. That's public safety, that is education, and to a bit healthcare. And I would want to see that those people that work in those professions for the state are not let go.
Sounds good. All right, on to the next question. So, inevitably, and you alluded to some of this in your last answer, so feel free to expand on that if you need to. There's going to be some economic challenges in our state due to revenue decreases associated with COVID. How are you going to prioritize those cuts, and would you cut healthcare spending? Can you talk us through that a little bit?
First of all, I would not cut healthcare spending as it is right now. Again, I go back to public safety, education, and healthcare being the licensing of physicians and people that work in the healthcare field and providing guidance from a public health standpoint is what I'm referring to when I say healthcare. So I think there's certain things that we've already done. The state did a really good job of the last couple of years of getting rid of some of these professional licensing fees. I think there are only 3 or 4 left that were going to be cut in 2021. And that's no longer the case for now because we do need that extra revenue, unfortunately. We had over $1 billion shortfall. Thankfully, we have a large rainy day fund and a large surplus, and we have almost zero debt in the state compared to other states, including just north of us, Kentucky. So I think it's important to continue those conservative principles that previous legislatures, Governor Haslam and Governor Lee have done. And we need to use that and utilize those. And that way we can continue to be fiscally conservative in a sense that we don't have to lay off people. We don't have to make those harsh decisions. We don't need to be adding more stuff to the budget. We don't need to be adding more people to our payrolls to prevent a crisis from happening. We have a lot of the tools in place and a lot of the people in place. So I don't believe that we're going to see a whole lot more cuts than what we've already seen projected into next year.
All right. John, you've done a great job answering the questions, and thanks for all your candor. I want to give you some time here at the end to just do a little stumping if you want, talk about any issues that you want to, and give a message to our membership.
So really the main reason I'm running, I'm filling a great man seat, Jim Coley. He's been in office for 14 years. He's stepping down due to some health problems, which is very admirable for him to accept that and make it public, because that takes a big commitment to run for office, but even a bigger commitment to voluntarily step down. So I want to first start with that I have very big shoes to fill. Really what brought me into this was my attitude and several friends of mine attitude. People were moving away from Memphis, not coming back after college, not coming back to Shelby County. They were moving to Nashville or Atlanta or other places outside the state. And it always kind of made me a little envious of other places, but it also made me curious as to what some of the causes were for that. And it really got down to economic development in West Tennessee, our education system here in Shelby County, and crime. And those are the 3 things that I think are drivers of whether or not a company will come invest its resources to relocate in Shelby County. I think it also goes with the people that work for those companies to bring their families here and to put their kids in schools. So the 3 things that I really want to focus on when I'm in the legislature is education, and that is adding pre-K education throughout the state. And again, like I said, we have a large rainy day fund and a large surplus, and we have very good funding for the Tennessee Promise. I want to expand on that with pre-K education, and our high schools need vo-tech skills taught again. We have a shortage across the country of plumbers, carpenters, HVAC technicians. In the Bartlett area, we have a very big emerging medical device industry. I'd love to add some of those skills to our high schoolers so they graduate with an associate degree, and they're off and ready, and they're earning 6 figures right off, or right off the bat. So that's first thing. Secondly is criminal justice reform. Our sentencing guidelines could be a lot better here. We have people that are committing armed robbery and even shooting people, in some cases killing people, that are not serving their full time. It can be as low as 20% time served after parole. So I don't think that the system we have in place now is helping that cycle of violence. And I think that if we start putting the people that are committing these heinous crimes away a little bit longer, other people will take notice and they'll realize they're not just going to jail for a couple of years for shooting someone. They're going to go to jail for a very long time. Now, the second part of that is, I think while we have them in our prison system, and keep in mind, 97% of people in our state prison system will eventually be released. We need to give them some skills. If they don't have an associate degree, let's give them one. If they don't have a driver's license, let's give them one. Let's help the people out that we are incarcerating as much as we can to prevent them from coming back. And lastly, economic development. We have been treated for quite some time now in Shelby County differently than other parts of the states. And there's a lot of reasons for that, mainly the two that I just touched on. But I really want to go up to Nashville and use our supermajority that the Republicans have and bring attention back here to Shelby County. I plan on shouting at the top of my lungs to say, hey, we have companies that want to move to Tennessee. Memphis already and Shelby County always provides a great logistical opportunity. We have a great airport, 5 class 5 rail systems here in Shelby County, 2 major interstate systems. Let's put them here and let's provide the opportunities that they can use to be lured here. So that's why I'm running, and I appreciate your vote.
Thanks, John. You've done a great job answering the questions. It was nice to get to know you today. Thanks for sharing so much time with us, and good luck to you on the campaign trail.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all for having me.
All right, John, take care.
I can do for you.
Thank you, John. Take care.